Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear brother. This is the translation of that message that was sent to me by our dear brother. The message reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi. How are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? So I came to South Africa a very long time ago. And when I came to South Africa, I first worked in Louis Trichardt, and the man that I was working for, he then told me that there was this other man who had bought a farm in Bella Bella. So they wanted a farm worker there. They then transported me from Louis Trichardt and then they brought me to Bella Bella. That was where I was working. So I worked like for a very long time for that man. It then happened that I got arrested and then there were a lot of raids in the farms. So my boss, he really liked me. So when I told him that I had thought of returning back to him because it was really difficult for me to work for him anymore and I did not have any other skills, so I could not get any other job rather than to work for him. He felt sorry for me and he told me that he was going to wait for his wife and he was going to speak with his wife first. After the wife had returned, that was when they called me and they told me that it was far much better for them to assist me than for me to return back home without having any money. So I thought that they were going to give me a lot of cash. Then they gave me this other coin and they said that I was supposed to place this coin inside my pillow and I was supposed to tell them the dreams that I would have had on that night. So when I went to bed, I then had a dream. I saw my boss. It was my boss and his wife. They were walking with me in the forest and they were taking me to this other Sangoma. And the next morning, I then told my boss about this dream that I could not understand. Then my boss told me that my ancestors and his ancestors, they had connected. My ancestors had allowed him to help me to be rich. When he said that my ancestors and his ancestors had connected, I was happy the moment that he told me that I was going to be rich. He was going to help me just like he had been helped by this other man who used to work for him, who was from Mozambique. So he told me that we were supposed to travel to Ivory Park. That was where this Mozambican Sangoma was staying. So he then loaded me in the boot of his car because he was afraid that since I did not have any papers, we were going to come across some roadblocks. So we traveled whilst I was at the back of the boot. And when we arrived in Ivory Park, we stayed at that Sangoma's house. And this man, when you will be walking, you will not even think that the man is a Sangoma. And this man, he was the one who helped my boss to become a ritualist. I stayed there. And then I was told that I was supposed to act as if I was a madman. This was going to be for almost a month when I'll be acting like a madman. So my boss then went and he got some used oil, engine oil, and I was told that I had to rub that engine oil all over my body. And then I was then given some dirty clothes that I was supposed to wear to look like a madman. From there on, my boss and that Sangoma then drove with me and they left me in Midrand. So I was left there in Midrand for about a month and I was told that I had to search for a mad woman. I had already been shown this mad woman in a mirror that the Sangoma from Mozambique was using, and I started walking around Midrand until finally I met that mad woman. She was in this other, and until finally I met that mad woman. When I met that mad woman, I had been given some charms that I was supposed to eat, and after I had eaten those charms, I approached her. So people were just thinking that these are two mad people that are fighting over food, and I was busy having a conversation with her. I started giving her food, following her around, and I kept on mixing the charms with the food that I was giving her. One night, we then slept together. After I had slept with her, she started having her period, and she was like my zombie now. She was like a zombie to me. She kept on following me wherever I would go to. I lured her with the food that I used to get into the forest. We went deep into the forest where we started staying. So what I will do is that I would sleep with her, and then I will come to town to look for food. And when I would have left her in the forest, I would chain her to a tree so that she would not escape throughout her period. This is what I was supposed to do to complete the first step of the ritual. I had to eat her blood. I was not allowed to eat any solid food. All that I could do was to drink water and to eat her blood because I was fasting. After that, my boss and that Sangoma, after that, my boss and that Sangoma, they located me. After they had located me, then they placed a marker on that mad woman just in case if she was going to fall pregnant. I don't know what they wanted to use the pregnancy for if she was going to fall pregnant. So that Sangoma had, those waist beads that he had and tied it around that mad woman, and we left her in the forest after I had unchained her. I was then taken back to that Sangoma's house, which was in Ivory Park. When I was at that traditional healer's place, I stayed for a little while, and I was told that I was supposed to wait until he had finished strengthening me. When he said that he had finally strengthened me, I was told that I was supposed to return back to Zim, and I did not have any money, and I was supposed to return back to Zim without having anything in my pockets. So then said that I was supposed to return back to Zim, and I was supposed to return back to Zim without anything, no money, no what. So my boss picked me up from the Sangoma's place, and he went with me to this other police station where he dropped me. So I started loitering around until this other police officer came and asked me where was I from, and he heard my accent and he arrested me. But what he did not know was that this was part of the plan. I was supposed to be arrested and to be deported. When I was deported, when I arrived home, my mom, she got so sick, and after my mom had gotten sick, I then returned back to South Africa because she was not supposed to die when I was around her. She was then taken to the hospital. When I had arrived here in South Africa, I sent some money. This money was given to me by my boss. It was ritual money. It was a form of me purchasing my mom's spirit. Mom then passed away, and I was not allowed to go to her funeral. I just pretended as if I did not have any money to travel back to Zim again. So after my mom had passed away, her spirit was then called at that Sangoma's house, and then she was made to transform and she became a snake. So this snake is the one that gives me money. So this snake, personally, I've never seen it vomiting money. I just know that it stays underneath my bed. The next morning when I wake up, I have to look underneath my bed. Then I'll see that there will be money there. So I'll just take the money and I will use it if I want to use it. But before I had started making the money, I stayed again for about a month staying at that traditional healer's house. Whilst I was there, there was this other woman who became my wife because I am now married to a South African woman. She was brought by her family. She is mentally unstable. When my wife was brought to the Sangoma's house, then with time, I was introduced to her family as if I had fallen in love with her and I was going to be a husband. They were more than happy since I had started making money. I married her and I am using her for my rituals. I cannot have a child with her because I am using a womb as well. As one thing that I had almost forgotten, just before I had left Zim, I was made to sleep with my mother. This was after she had drank a lot of traditional beer because my mom used to love to drink traditional beer a lot. After she had fallen fast asleep, I then slept with her. This was part of the ritual, and after that, I placed a hunting knife on her forehead and I returned back to South Africa. But I had to use Davulapu, and my boss came and picked me up and he took me to Ivory Park. Yeah, dear listeners, right there was a translation of a message that was sent to me, hoping that you were able to understand that translation. Our brother is saying that he gifted his wife's elder brother with a house. This was in 2020. Strange things do happen in this world.